On today's show, 9 games in the association. KP returns for the Boston Celtics, and they set records. Of course they do. The Knicks offense goes insane against the Nuggets. And Isaiah Hartenstein, second game for the Thunder. That team is going to be really good. More on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome. You're Locked On to NBA Game Night. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being in every day and making Locked On NBA your first listen today. Today's episode is sponsored by Built. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by go to joinbuilt.com. That's join, Join, built, BILT.com/LockedOnNBA. And joining me, as always, from the great Locked On Bucks show, Camille Davis. What did you see tonight?
Man, saw a lot of blowouts, saw some wild finishes, and some things that I just did not expect on this evening.
That's right. A 9-game slate, you never know what you're going to get. And so we'll get into every single game of the night. We'll talk about the Thunder with Hartenstein getting his second game there. We'll talk about the Dallas Mavericks getting a gutsy win against the Hawks without Luka. We'll talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. Is Ja Morant the most must-watch player in the NBA? Joe Molinex, Locked On Grizzlies, thinks he is. Of course he does. But we will talk about that and discuss and count it up where we count all the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. And let's just start here with the game of the night, at least for records, as far as records come into play. The Boston Celtics set a record in the second quarter with 12 threes made in the second quarter. Let's hear from John Krause of Locked On Celtics.
This was a dominant second quarter, absolutely dominant, scoring 51 points, breaking a team record, tying an NBA record for 12 three-pointers made in the quarter, and ran away with this game, really. Jalen Brown was absolutely dominant in that second quarter, but obviously the big story is Kristaps Porzingis making his surprise return earlier than expected and looking pretty good in 22 minutes. I thought that it was pretty clear how much he enhances the Celtics in that time. What stood out was defending the rim. That one play in the second quarter where Jalen Brown had a guy on the corner, got beat, and Porzingis was there to two-hand just catch the shot and force a 24-second violation. And then in the third quarter, when the Celtics were kind of slipping out of the half, they went to Porzingis post-ups, and he scored 4 points to kind of settle things down, and the Celtics kind of took back off from there and ran away with this game. So Porzingis is back. He looks pretty good for a guy who hasn't played since June, and I think he's going to be obviously a big factor. We'll see how much he plays and when his next game off will be, but obviously a major upgrade for the Celtics.
I'm not sure I listened to anything John Krause said. It's bumping over there in Boston. The TD Garden is going off over there. But yeah, Porzingis gets the start. He plays just 22 minutes, but 16.6 boards, 2 assists. Let's just start with him, and then we'll get to that record-setting second quarter. What did you see from Kristaps Porzingis in his return?
I love how active the Celtics were of trying to get him going immediately. Like in the very first quarter, you see him out there on the floor. The first 3 possessions, they were giving the ball to KP. He's getting lob attempts in the second quarter. And like John said, like that defensive piece for it, the rim protection, they have missed Porzingis. And if you would have told me last year that Porzingis was going to be a key for rim defense, I would have been a little shocked about that. But he has proven that he is a necessary piece for their defense at the rim.
One of the things I'll never forget about the NBA Finals, being there and being in Boston, seeing it, is Porzingis coming down the tunnel from, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? He's injured and all that. Coming through the tunnel and them having the camera on him and him just like running through like a WWE entrance, basically, where he comes in and the whole crowd went insane. The most insane they've ever gone. Even when they won the title, I think this was the most insane they've gone as Porzingis. He gives them that kind of a boost, I think, to their crowd, to their like morale too. And just a boost everywhere, right? He went 1 of 6 from 3. We'll talk about their threes, but if he can get that going at all, it gives them insane spacing that the Mavs had for a while he was there. The rim protection for sure is a big advantage. That second quarter, 51 points, 12 of 17 from 3, tying a record for 12 threes in the quarter. The Clippers went 2 of 5 from 3 in that quarter. Imagine getting outscored from 3 by 30 points. You don't win quarters that way.
Unbelievable. That's a math problem. That's a big math problem. The fact that of all those buckets the Celtics made in that second quarter, there were 14 assists on 17 made field goals. Like, it wasn't as if they were just going and just jacking shots. Like, it was within the flow of the game, the ball movement. Some were difficult, but that's the Celtics. Like, you saw it in the first quarter. They're putting up a lot of shots. They only made 4. It's a 7-point game. But then you get a quarter like that second quarter where they just can't miss, and you see that lead balloon. It's crazy watching them.
You
play.
just die. Like, your team just dies when that happened. Literally, the start of the second quarter, first 6 of 7 possessions were made threes. Pritchard hit one, Hauser hit one, Pritchard hit 2, White hit 1, Brown hit 1, Pritchard hit another. You're just like, all of a sudden that's 6 threes in a row. Your team just is done. And the other side, Zubats is doing his best to, like, get dunks, and he finished with 23 points. Like, that's nice. 11 twos. That's just not gonna get it done. Another Celtics stat for you. Drew Holiday, now with Porzingis back, Drew Holiday is 8th on their team in 3-point attempts per game. He's at 8th. He's averaging 5.2 3-point attempts per game. There are 19 teams in the NBA that only have 2 or 3 players taking 5 or more threes in a game, and the Celtics have 8 of them.
That is how the Celtics are designed. Like, that's the math problem they present. That is nuts. I mean, when you look at this game, Peyton Pritchard was 6 of 10 from 3. 6 of 10 by himself. The Clippers as a full team made 1 more 3 than Peyton Pritchard did by himself. Like, crazy. Crazy.
Oh my gosh. So there you go. The Clippers, they've been a great story, but in this one, they just got 3-pointed to death. Their offense cannot keep up with the Celtics. So go listen to Locked On Celtics. Go listen to Darian on Locked On Clippers for more stuff on that game. Let's get into the next one. The Knicks versus the Nuggets. The Knicks offense, 145 points for them. And let's hear from our guy, Alex Wolf from Locked On Knicks.
How do you rebound from the worst loss of your young season? Well, if you ask the New York Knicks, they might say, beat the Denver Nuggets 145-118. So how about that? The most points scored by a team in this year's young NBA season so far. OG Anunoby sets a career high in points with 40. He had 38 of those before the end of the third quarter, so only got 2 more in the fourth quarter as he played sparingly. Could have reasonably gone for 50 in this game. Jalen Brunson, while we're talking about career highs, sets a career high with 17 assists, crushing his previous career high mark. He's going crazy as a floor general right now, doing more than we've ever seen as far as being the guy setting everybody's table on the court right now. And then Karl Anthony Towns somehow manages to go for the quietest 30 points, 15 boards, 4 assists, and 3 steals that you'd ever want to see out of any player, including 12 of 15 shooting and 2 of 2 from 3 against a multi-time MVP on the other side of the floor. The Knicks did everything they needed to do to rebound from that terrible loss to the Jazz the other day, and now they'll look to carry that momentum into Dallas on Wednesday.
No, they will not. So
he said, spoiler alert, absolutely not.
No, they might. Their offense is absolutely humming. He mentioned OG with 40 points. The Knicks scored 145. They last scored 145 in March of this past year, March 27th. Before that, they scored 145 points in 2006 in December. And before that, the last time they scored 145 points was in 1980, in November 11th of 1980. So they've only scored, the last 44 years they've scored 145 points. This is now the third time. The fourth time they've done it in 45 years.
On the back of OG. Like, if you would have told me coming to this game, like, Jalen Brunson will be the 3rd leading scorer for the Knicks, but they're going to still blow him out, I'd be like, wait, what happened in that game exactly there? But I love to see Jalen Brunson setting the table for everybody else too. Like Alex mentioned, like, I think that's a big piece of it, because you go into it assuming after last year and seeing how the offense all revolved around Brunson that it would be a lot of Brunson, and it still is, but he's using his gravity to also set up his teammates. And I love that aspect of the offense for the Knicks. And when you have pick and pop chemistry like he does with Cat, like, you gotta lean on that.
Yeah, you do. With Brunson, Cat, by the way, how crazy is it that a 30-15 game is like the footnote on a game where we're like talking about him a third?
Where he only missed 3 shots all night.
For OG, I thought that the Nuggets just really struggled when the teeth of your defense is Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. with Aaron Gordon out. Like there's just nowhere for them to send help over to OG, right? So you got Brunson swing pass over to OG, and then all of a sudden he's on the weak side for the Nuggets, and you're like, all right, Jokic is our help defender, MPJ is his defender. He just got past him a bunch of times, I felt, in that. Michael Malone mentioned that it would be great to see some hustle and great to see some effort out there, some little sarcasm toward his own team there. And then for Brunson, 17 assists, a career high for him. I think the spacing from Towns has really helped him to get more passing lanes, but I think he's also just gotten better. This is what he does. He gets better at his game, and more passes have opened up for him. He's showing more creativity in his passes and things like that. He's also had 10 or more assists in 4 of the last 5 games, so he is dishing it out right there. Jalen Brunson is.
And I think it's also showing just how they're getting used to playing with one another. Like we know that Nova Knicks and everything that went into that, like Jalen Brunson is used to playing with Josh Hart. He played with OG for the end of last year, but getting used to different guys in different roles, like Cat is a big addition to this team. Mikal Bridges is a big addition to this team. So it's just seeing them start to gel offensively and seeing them bounce back after that Jazz game in particular to come out this dominant with this level of focus, this energy. If you're a Knicks fan, you got to feel really good about that.
Yeah, an incredible offensive performance for the Knicks. They also had 145 offensive rating, which is legitimately like perfect, like just a perfect offense for this team. And coming up, let's get into the Thunder, who had a pretty perfect third quarter for them, and they pulled away from the Kings. Let's talk about that win, and we'll also talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Good win for them against the Hawks without Luka. We'll talk about all that and more coming up. Count it up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Built. Everybody is paying rent at some point in their life that I know of, has paid rent or is, had to pay rent in some place. If that's where you are right now, check out Rent, because if you're a renter, I'd start taking advantage of Built if I were you. Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, practically everything else we buy, but we should also be earning points on rent, one of our biggest monthly expenses. You're sending that big check, or that big direct deposit comes right out of your account every month. Built changed the game by letting renters earn high value points on rent and around their neighborhood. So this is how it works. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Points can be transferred to hotels, airlines. They have 500 airlines, 700,000 hotels and properties, which feels like all of them, like every one of them. Points can be redeemed through towards a future rent payment, unique experiences that only Built members can access. Start earning points on rent if you're already paying for by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA, join Built, BILT, built.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure to use that URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA to start earning points on your rent payments today. Also brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For specific product disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA. Being in every day or listening every day and every game night when the show comes out at night. We have a Locked On show that covers your team every day. Check the link in the description to find a show and a newsletter that covers your team every single day, straight to your inbox, free on both fronts for that. All right, Camille, let's get into our next game. The Oklahoma City Thunder get a win against the Sacramento Kings. These teams were playing even pretty much through the middle of the third quarter, and then all of a sudden, it's inevitable. Thanos, in a way, this Thunder team, they're going to go on a run at some point, and they did in that third quarter. They went on a 13-2 run, and then it ended up being a 23-8 run going into the fourth quarter, where the Thunder shot 4 of 8 from 3. The Kings on the other end went 1 of 8 from 3, and that felt like the difference to me. SGA finishes with 37 points, 11 assists, and Isaiah Hartenstein's second game with the Thunder fit just like a glove. 17 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Yeah. He's the glue that kind of holds this together, even though it was already together to begin with.
Hartenstein just gives them like a little added protection. It's like you guys continue being the aggressive defenders that you are, playing up, being super aggressive. And then like if someone happens to get by you, have faith that I got your back behind you as well. So keep doing what you're doing. He just gives them a added dimension there. Again, as you mentioned, 10 rebounds from him. Lu Dort also had 10 rebounds, who only took 2 shots, but he did a fantastic job bothering De'Aaron Fox throughout the evening. I don't know if Lu Dort bothered Fox more or the referees.
Definitely the referees, because there was some weird calls in this game. I'm not gonna lie. There was one that was going around where Sabonis kind of hooked Isaiah Hartenstein, but then it looked like Sabonis would have had to like take Hartenstein's arm with both of his arms and throw him like a wrestler. He would have had to do that in order to do what Hartenstein did, and Sabonis got called for the foul. The Kings fans were furious. You could hear the vitriol from the broadcast, and then they did a close-up of the sidelines with like a referee with fans behind him, and you could just see guys like flipping him off, like flipping the refs off and screaming at him. There was a lot of frustration in this game. Hartenstein also got whacked over the eye, and was bleeding profusely. And I have to ask you a question about this.
Okay.
He's bleeding profusely, like you could very visibly see it. And the arena staff for the Kings starts playing Leona Lewis's Bleeding Love. Poor taste, or is it clever?
That's what arenas are supposed to do. Knowing that he's not in like severe danger, gotta have the right song for the right time. Just like how they play Jump Around for jump balls and stuff like that. Right. Bleeding Love, I'm here for that.
You're there for it? An opposing player starts bleeding, and you're like, okay. Thought that was really funny that they did that. Kings had some foul trouble too. Sabonis had 5, Malik Monk had 4 through halfway through the third quarter. And the Sacramento Kings fans were just fed up. But the thing about Hartenstein is he also set a ton of really good screens in this game, and that is something that I guess that this team needed. They already were set. They already had a bunch of things going for them, but it does open up a lot of things for SGA. 37 points in this one. He for Jalen Williams, 28 points in this one, and that just it opens up a lot on the perimeter for them on a team that was playing without centers for a while.
Yeah, so having one back, I'm sure, was just like, wow, what is this? Like, I saw a stat that the Thunder had like 6 of the top 10 guards in dunker spot minutes. And I was like, that doesn't surprise me, but still seeing it was just like, wow, this is being an offense that is run a bit differently. And one quick thing before we move off this game that I'm keeping an eye on too, just the minute load of the King stars, especially since they've been nicked up a little bit. This is the game where De'Aaron Fox had 40 minutes as well. DeMar DeRozan, 36, Sabonis, 35. The 3 of them have been averaging like over 36 and a half minutes apiece. So just something to keep an eye on here during the marathon of the season, how those minutes are managed. And I know part of it's been because of some injuries, but like got to take care to make sure those guys are healthy heading into the playoffs.
You hope they will, because the Kings are 8-10 right now, and they're 12th in the West behind the Timberwolves, which it just is insane how insane the West is right now. Speaking of which, the Dallas Mavericks get a win against the Atlanta Hawks. This was a game where Luka didn't play. You had Klay Thompson was a scratch because of an injury. Quentin Grimes was a scratch because of illness. And I bring that up because Kyrie Irving was questionable because of that same illness. We think it's the same illness, I guess. I'm assuming, because Derek Lively also left the game at halftime with an illness. It's just running through this Dallas Mavericks team for whatever reason. And the Mavericks team played pretty even with this Hawks team. It was like a game of runs that kept going back and forth, and a Spencer Dinwiddie, Najee Marshall fueled 10-0 run at the end of the first quarter helped keep them alive in this one. And then you get a third quarter Spencer Dinwiddie run again where he hit 3 threes in a row after going 0 for 9 the night before in Miami. Like just an actual, I was shocked when I watched it. I shouldn't be, because it's Dinwiddie and that's what he does every once in a while. But those 2 runs in the first quarter and in the third quarter were massive for the Mavericks. And then it just set it all up for Kyrie Irving to take over in that second half. 22 points in the second half, 16 points in the fourth quarter, and just a great run. Halfway through the fourth quarter, he had 14 points. The Hawks had 14 points, and then he took it from there, and they ended up getting the win. It wasn't even a clutch game, which the Mavs have really struggled with clutch games, but it ended up not being within 5. So the Mavs avoided a clutch game, which is how they win games apparently right now.
Shoot, talking about minutes, Kyrie played 41, and he was questionable coming into the game with that illness, as you mentioned. So I love the distribution of Kyrie. I mean, he took 28 shots, so he was still going to get his fair share of the shot allocation, but making sure other guys are touching the ball, getting set up. Like they had 6 different players in double figures in this game, which you need on a night where there is no Luka. You have to find those points elsewhere. It can't just be Kyrie. You saw Najee Marshall step up. You saw Jaden Hardy step up. You saw Spencer Dinwiddie, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington. Like, it was a real team effort in this game. Even Maxi Kleber got in there and had some points as well in his 20 minutes of play, some rebounds, just steal, a block, just doing what he can during his time. So it was a real team effort that Kyrie at the end of the game said, okay, guys, like, I got y'all. I'm going to take it home, which I love to see that kind of distribution on a team.
Especially playing without Luka, you just know that a bunch of guys have to step up. You're missing like 30 points, 8 assists and like a ton of minutes there.
Yeah.
And so Jaden Hardy got the start. He needed to be playable. He was not playable against the Heat the night before, and so he had to step up. And he produced. He had a non-perfect game, but he produced with 23 points. Najee Marshall, I think, has just been a player that has stepped up in such a big way. To me, I said this on Locked On Mavs, he's become like, I consider him an offensive creator in my head now because he's had 20 points in 4 of the last 5 games. He's really jumped, and he can just get downhill and drive. And he has this herky jerky, I compared him to a zebra, where zebras, when they run away from lions, they zigzag. That's what he does through the lane. He zigzags back and forth, and it really throws you off. He drove right at Dyson Daniels, who has been one of the best perimeter defenders in the league this season, and just drove right around him. And you're like, and Dyson was like, "What is this? What am I guarding right now?" Because it doesn't really make sense. And then he just throws that floater up. But 22 points, 6 rebounds for Najee, good contribution. And then the Maxi Kleber part of it, he has not produced much at all this season. And to see him have 7 points, 7 rebounds, and play 20 minutes and play at the 5. To end this game, the Mavs didn't go with Gafford at the end, and then Lively was sick and out of the game. So to go with him was a really big deal. So good gutsy win for the Mavericks, and a big one for Kyrie Irving to step up in a leadership role and just be great down the stretch and hit a bunch of shots. Coming up, let's get into the rest of these games. Is Ja Morant the most must-watch player in the NBA? We'll talk about that and Count It Up coming up. Count It Up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Skims. All right, I have to be honest. This weekend, I went hiking, and I was wearing Skims, and on the way there, I was nervous because anytime you go hiking, you're nervous that your underwear are going to start riding up, that you're going to have to just be fidgeting with them all the time, making sure that you feel comfortable and all that. The whole hike, I didn't think about them once, which is a good thing. You don't want to necessarily think about your underwear, because when you are thinking about your underwear, it's because they annoy you. And so not having to think about it was a great thing, and it's all because of Skims. They stay in their shape, they're breathable, and they're lightweight. You don't have to worry about thinking about them all the time, and I had a great experience wearing Skims underwear, even while hiking and doing something that was, I was sweating and walking around and going up elevation and down and all that. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Let them know that we sent you after you place an order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. Also available at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. That's skims.com/LockedOnNBA.
Big chicken, baby.
Zion Williamson and porn star.
Take that for that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
It's Count It Up, where we count on the most interesting, fun things in the NBA in the night that was here on game night. Let's talk about the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Portland Trailblazers. The Grizzlies get Ja Morant back, and they get a win, 123 to 98. Let's hear from our guy Joel Mulinex of Locked On Grizzlies.
Morant is back. That's right. Your favorite NBA player's favorite NBA player back on the court for the Memphis Grizzlies, doing things that only Ja Morant can do in a professional victory for Memphis over the Portland Trailblazers. I'm Joe Mullinax of Locked On Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies should have beaten the Portland Trailblazers. That's important to point out. They're healthier. They're a better team, actively trying to win. Jaren Jackson Jr. having an all-NBA campaign. That continued in this contest. The depth of the Grizzlies roster on full display, the pace, the offensive efficiency, the growth on that end of the floor, it was all there. However, what are people talking about coming out of this game? They are talking about viral dunks. They are talking about behind the back passes. They are talking about the feeling that you get, that you only get when Ja Morant is on the floor for the Memphis Grizzlies. He is the most must-see attraction in the National Basketball Association. He is back. He is Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies.
Ooh, coming in hot, Joe, always. My question for you, Camille.
Count it up.
Is Ja Morant the most must-watch C player in the NBA right now?
You know, I cover the Bucks, so I watch Giannis Antetokounmpo night in and night out, and I feel as if his magic is underrated at times. But there is something to seeing a guard go out there and punch on people. It's something about seeing a guard with the passes, the flash, and Ja also has like the attitude to go along with it. So, like, I think it's arguable that Ja is the most must-see player in the NBA right now. Like, that's not something crazy. As I hear him, I'm like, what? Never. Like, yeah, Ja, he's up there for me. Like, if I see the Memphis Grizzlies are playing and Ja's healthy, I'm probably tuning in.
I think about the plays. I think it was against the Nets where he goes up and it looks like he's going to try to dunk over a player, but instead he spins around them and finishes. Like that stuff is stuff that we just haven't really seen and don't really see much in the NBA anymore. I honestly kind of came away agreeing with Joe after going through a bunch of players. The name that came to mind as far as must see and must watch is LeBron right now because of what he's doing at his age, because we haven't seen that. I mean, I think Dirk had the highest points per game at 40 and it was like 7. And LeBron is right now, just dominating at his age. It's absolutely wild to see him score 23 points a game at 40.
Like last year, I would have been like Ant-Man, like Anthony Edwards was somebody who was coming on in that way as well. But the Timberwolves so far this season just haven't been gelling right. We haven't had the same amount of like highlight plays from Anthony Edwards, but I feel like Ja does it every single time he's on the court.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into the next game. The Toronto Raptors and the Detroit Pistons. A Jaden Ivey game winner. Let's hear from our guy, Cahill of Locked On Pistons.
Having Cade Cunningham, despite having Asar Thompson back in his first game in 9 months where he was clearly gassed at a lot of times, clearly rusty, despite not being able to score more than 102 points in this game, the Detroit Pistons found a way to beat the Toronto Raptors with Scotty Barnes this time, with Jaden Ivey hitting a game-winning shot to seal off a game where he played absolutely phenomenal within this game, shot 10 of 13 from the field, had 25 points, played absolutely exceptional when he was the only real ball handler, the only real shot creator for the Detroit Pistons. He had it on his back, especially late for the Detroit Pistons. 2 insanely tough baskets at the end of this game. Kudos player of the game. But Jalen Duren also, I believe, had his best defensive game of the year, winning the battle against Jakob Poeltl after being dominated last game. And while Asar Thompson did showcase that he was a bit gassed, obviously rusty, he showcased why there's reason to be excited about him moving forward. Exciting game for the Detroit Pistons, a win without Cade Cunningham.
Jaden Ivey's really coming into his own this season, and he's stepped up in a way that we haven't seen in the past. The Hornets are also a team with like a young backcourt that has been very good. My question for you is, which backcourt would you rather have? LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, or Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey going forward?
Count it up.
Woo, that's a tough one. I think that Pistons backcourt gives you a little bit more playmaking there, but like the offensive powerhouse of that Charlotte duo, like I think I'm going to go with Melo and Miller on that one. What about you?
Yeah, to see LaMelo, LaMelo just got 50, so it's kind of hard.
I saw that one.
It's kind of hard to not pick that one. I think I would pick the scoring bunch and the size of LaMelo and Miller. It's just not the same as Cade and Ivey. And we've seen Ivey step up in this way once. Like last year, a lot of people were out on him, and so I think I would take the Hornets guys right now too. Speaking of the Hornets, they lose the Orlando Magic, and let's hear from our guy Philip Rossman-Reich of Locked On Magic.
Magic somehow, some way defeat the Charlotte Hornets despite shooting 12 of 46 from 3. That's bad. And the Orlando Magic have been a team that are the worst shooting team in the NBA at this point, I imagine. If they're not, they are after this game. But this is the thing. Good teams find a way to win. Championship level teams find a way to win. When they're not shooting the ball well, when they don't have it, when they're jet lagged, when whatever the case may be, good teams find a way. And the Orlando Magic found a way to defeat the Charlotte Hornets, despite terrible shooting, despite Franz Wagner not really showing up till the fourth quarter. Their defense traveled, it led the way, it forced turnovers, it kept the Magic in the game, and then they did what they've done all year. They dominated the fourth quarter. They had the best net rating in the fourth quarter this year. Dominated the fourth quarter, pulled away from the Charlotte Hornets, and took home a win. Back home we go.
Back home we go, and you can go listen to Locked On Magic for more on that win. But there's a stat that you sent me, Camille. LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller are taking 22.7 threes per game going into the night. That would be the highest of any duo in NBA history. Steph and Clay had 22 in one season. My question is,
Count it up.
will they continue it? Will they end the season as the most threes?
That's a lot
combined?
of threes a game. I'm going to say they come right underneath that. That's a lot. Like, and I know that Magic game brought that number down a bit for them. So I think they're going to come under it, but it's impressive to see.
It's just a wild stat to hear at this point in the season, because it's not an insignificant amount of games at this point. And so that was definitely significant. I don't think that they'll hit it either, because it's just so many to keep up. But they have had a bunch of injuries, and so they may need these guys to just keep jacking up shots, especially defensive players. Mark Williams has been out. Grant Williams is going to be out for them now. And like, they're just going to have to keep outscoring teams, basically.
That's a fact.
Speaking of outscoring teams, that's what the Indiana Pacers do. They get a win against the quote-unquote Pelicans. Well, I keep saying quote-unquote Pelicans because they just don't have any players. Let's hear from our guy Tony East of Locked On Pacers after the win.
They're on the floor here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They're cleaning up, but the Pacers cleaned up the Pelicans tonight, 114-110, their second win in a row and second win on their 4-game homestand going on. Right now, the story of the game by far has to be Tyrese Haliburton for this Pacers team. Really came alive in this one. 34 points, his second most of the season. 13 assists, his second most of the season. Played with some joy. That's what he talked about post-game being important for him. Skipping after some big threes in the first half. Really coming alive on a night the Pacers needed someone to step up. A lot of pedestrian, good enough but not great nights for them. Someone needed to carry them, and it was Tyrese Haliburton, looking like himself 2 games in a row, and really 10 straight quarters, 4, 5, 6 straight halves. I can't do math fast enough, but he's been pretty dang good for the Pacers, maybe turning a corner. Quentin Jackson hit 4 huge threes, a two-way player who's been big for the Pacers. Miles Turner was awesome in the fourth quarter. Pacers 8-10, climbing a little bit after a really trippy start. We'll have a lot more on Locked On Pacers.
A trippy start is a good way to describe the Pacers season so far. Great to see Haliburton get back, especially after that picture that Tony East shared after last game, where Haliburton was sitting there looking like the saddest boy that didn't get what he wanted for Christmas.
I think that was after the Bucks game too, where it was just like everything went wrong for him. You could tell something was not right. So to see him look more like Tyrese Haliburton that we saw last year before the injury is encouraging.
Again, we're going to focus on the team that lost. And Elfrid Payton played again for the Pelicans. Yes, if you haven't paid attention, Elfrid Payton is on the Pelicans. He just got picked up recently. He had 21 assists in this game with Zion out, Herb Williams out, Jose Alvarado out, DeJounte Murray still out, but coming back on Wednesday. 21 assists. Only 48 players in NBA history have done that. Here's all the players that have only had one game of 21 assists. So this is the group that Elfrid Payton is now joining.
Okay.
Andre Miller.
Okay.
Jerry West, the logo.
Come on, Jerry.
Mark Jackson, great point guard. James Harden. Chris Paul, and the coach of the Dallas Mavericks, Jason Kidd. I was shocked by that name, that he's only had 21 or more assists one time in a game. So Elfrid Payton has the same career high in assists as Jason Kidd, Chris Paul, James Harden, and Jerry West.
That's crazy. Here goes some other names for you real quick. Other Pelicans with at least 20
assists. Is this a who he played for? I was about to do that for this game.
Other Pelicans that had at least 20 assists in the game. Chris Paul did it 3 times. You had Rajon Rondo, who had the franchise record of 25. And then you had Darren Collison, who had a 20 assist game for the Pelicans. So it's just those 4.
21 assists. Insane for Elfrid Payton. So shout out to him for making the most of the opportunity. And the Nets are making the most of their opportunity in this season. They get a win against the Golden State Warriors in Golden State, 128-120. The Brooklyn Nets are now 8-10. They're 2.5 games back from 4th in the East. My question is,
Count it up.
Nets, what are we doing?
The players are doing what they said they would do in training camp, feeling disrespected by when people said they couldn't win, 20 games, and they said they were going out there and they were going to show people wrong. Now, the front office might disagree with how the players are going about it, so that might change soon. But right now, the players feel good and they're ready to hoop.
This Nets team feels like it's gone full circle since that frisky Nets team with D'Angelo Russell and Jared Allen and Kenny Atkinson at the helm and all that. It just feels like they've gone full circle where like Dennis Schroeder is Spencer Dinwiddie and you have like Cam Johnson is Joe Harris. He's just like, we've gone full circle with this team. They're frisky again. That team that went 42-40 back in 2019.
They could be the new version of that, but I don't think the front office is going to let it get there. Like, they want the draft picks in Brooklyn. I get it. They just got them back as well. So they're going to change some things up with that roster to make sure that the product isn't as good, I don't think.
They are currently 15th. They're outside of the lottery right now. So
see, that's not where they're trying to be.
They're Tankathon says they're 4.5 games out. So that's not too big of a gap. That can be closed, but I don't know. Washington at 2-13. Philly at 3-13. They've already kind of staked their claim there at this point. But we're done here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. Go check out all the shows that cover your team every day. Locked On Bucks with Camille and Justin. Locked On Mavs with me and Isaac. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA Game Night.